We begin chapter 27. Where do you live? Where do you live? McDonald. Where do you live? Some of you live. Leah lives in Florida. Davida in New York. Cherise is in Israel. Mordechai in Massachusetts. Vicky is in California. Eugenia in Calgary. John is in North Carolina. Jeff is in Michigan. Okay. Smiley, I don't know where. John, North Carolina. Sandeep Samuel in India. Andrew's in New Jersey. Jeanette, not certain where. Zara's in Malaysia. Ahmed is in Egypt. Carmen is in Texas. And everywhere. But folks, may I suggest that you don't live there. You don't live on McDonald. Maybe you eat there. And maybe you go to sleep there. You know where you live? Right here. Between your temples, in your mind. What you're thinking is where you're living. Right? And the thoughts of the individual, that's where you're living. So what happens if sadness comes from a sense of an anxiety? Because you always have negative thoughts that come into your mind. Your mind, that's where you live. And that's why you have anxiety. Right? And so you have negative thoughts. Thoughts that shouldn't be, that you don't want to have in your head. Right? I remember many years ago I saw a movie, and that the image sometimes comes in my head. I say, oh, why did I watch that movie? Who wants to have that image in my head, like it's not healthy, right? And it makes you sad. It might even bring anxiety at times. So the Alter Rebbe says, if this occurs during, not during your service of God, which we'll deal with that in chapter 28, but if it comes to you during work, right? Your service of God is right now. If those negative thoughts come in now, we'll deal with that later. But if it comes to you while you're making breakfast for yourself, it comes to you while you're working, right? It comes to you while you're just driving in the car going to visit a friend, whatever, right? The Alter Rebbe says, on the contrary, you should be happy.
Joy.
Should be happy. Yeah, you should be joyful. Why? That these sinful thoughts come into your mind. Why? Because now you can do a mitzvah. And what's the mitzvah? Well, in the third paragraph of the Shema, we say, Lo yisasur achrei levavchem, asher einechem, achrei levavchem, achrei einechem, asher atem zeinim achreihem. You should not follow your heart and after your eyes, which will lead you astray. Right? So you now have a mitzvah to fulfill. Not following what your heart's desire is, because you think of those things that are in your heart, right? The stronger the feeling in your heart, the more likely the more you will think of it, right? So it's now coming to mind and you're thinking, but guess what? You've got a mitzvah to fulfill now. And what is that? To push away that thought. Now, it says the Alter Rebbe that the verse is speaking. Who's this verse speaking to? Not the tzaddikim, because tzaddikim don't have, righteous people do not have thoughts that they need that lead them astray. They don't have negative thoughts. They don't have illicit thoughts in their mind. It's speaking to you and I. That's what it's speaking to. Right? So, okay, you and I, BITs, or to the Beinoni who's struggling with the negative thought. That's who it's speaking to. And says our sages say, interestingly, that if I am, you think that life is all about doing good. And, the reward in life comes from the good that we do. It's true. But our sages say that even when you have a negative thought and it comes to you and you are joyous in the fact that now you can fulfill a mitzvah, pushing it away, that passive act, like it's not a passive goodness. I mean, it's a passive goodness. It's not an active goodness, right? All you did is discard a negative thought. That's considered as if you did good. Our sages say that, which is very unique. That's very unique thought, that you can have a negative thought, and you just think, well, push away the negative thought. All it does is bring me back to ground zero, right? Not negative, not positive, but not negative at least, right? No, it's not ground zero. The fact that you fulfilled the mitzvah of pushing away that thought, it's as if you did good. It's a positive thing. In other words, it's not just getting rid of the negative so I can allow something positive. No, it's positive. It's a positive in and of itself, which is a very powerful idea. With that, it's a brief thought for the beginning of chapter 27. All right. All right. What is the difference between the Baal Tshuva and the BIT? I mean, BIT is, not an official status. Right? Baal Tshuva is someone who did penitence. They cleansed everything. A BIT, not necessarily we did tshuva for everything. Right? We still have stains on our soul, and but we're still training to become the Beinoni, which will then mean we deal with everything that we need to deal with, right? That's what it means. All right, folks, tonight, 6:30, yes, there will be Torah studies. Yes, I know I am competing against, 100 million people plus, but you know what? What will come down on Torah studies tonight, 6:30, is worth infinitely greater than any game that you watch. Now, I know your heart tells you differently, but that's what we just learned. Don't go after your heart's desire. That will lead you astray. All right? So come to Torah studies tonight, 6:30. Right? Either here, in the room, which is the best thing, because then you can more focused, but at least on Zoom. Or, right? And then, of course, 8 o'clock, there'll be TRC. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch and Kedeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Rambam coming up. Thank you. A good week.